Welcome, all astrology, Leo ascendant, Leo rising. It is February 3rd. I am going to talk about your romance, your fiery romance, your children, your creative projects, your dating, your relating, and your belief systems about what you value. We're going to also dip into where Mercury is going to be affected, specifically when it's in the murky waters of Pisces, and how the retrograde and the out of bounds Mars coincide, and the clear dates, the good dates, I should say, for making decisions. All right, we're going to do that right here, right now. So the first thing we want to talk about is that today we have the 3rd of February and Mercury has now entered Pisces. Mercury, first of all, is your thinking, your clarity of speaking. Mercury is very fast typically. It's air, all right? Moves great, just kind of flies. Phew. Imagine Mercury as a being with wings on their feet, kind of like an angel or a fairy, so they're flying. Well, imagine they're now in water. So they're slowed down, they become sluggish. Not a swimmer, a flyer, right? Big difference. So we understand, we get a really good idea of what the heck happened to our thinking. I know I felt it immediately. It was like, what the hell? I can't remember what I was just doing. It's like, holy shit. But typically the worst is when it just gets into the new energy. It acclimates. We go through it's a transitional part of the thinking. Anytime a planet moves into a new energy, it has to acclimate to it. So, and it will acclimate because this happens all the time. These aren't new events, all right? What is new is the relationships and the setups of the other locations of the planets, right? That's why we're constantly changing. Life is always happening. So this happens for you. Mercury is in Pisces. This is all in your 8th house. Let me give you some degrees because you might be looking at a chart where these degrees might fall into your 9th house, because it's possible you're looking at a chart where your houses are divided, right? Where your signs don't neatly fit into the house, where they kind of flow into the next house. It's a really good possibility. It's totally 100% normal, depending upon what kind of a chart you're looking at. So I'm going to give you the degrees. Right now, Mercury, like I said, like at 1 degrees of Pisces. But when Mercury starts the retrograde motion, it's when it's at 13 degrees Pisces. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if it's better when we're talking about Mercury in Pisces, if Mercury is worse when she starts going backwards or while she's going forwards. Either way, she's in water. To me, going backwards means Mercury understands, okay, I need to rethink this. That's what retrogrades mean for Mercury. It's a time when we're going over something. Like you write manuscripts. Well, I'm going to reread the manuscripts. Or you're a student, you wrote a paper. You're going to reread what you already wrote. And that's when you find, oh, crap, I made a mistake here, right? Oh, here's a typo. Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't even want that in there. This should be over here. That's what the retrograde means. It's an internalization process. We think things through a little bit deeper. So it's actually a bonus for this energy, because when Mercury is in the water, it gets slowed. Now, if this is in your 8th house, right? At those degrees, Mercury is between 0 and 13 in your 8th house. The 8th house is shared resources. It's how I merge my energy with a significant other, someone who you're very tightly bonded with. Money is energy. Keep that in mind. Others' values. That means others' monies, okay? Values can be anything somebody else possesses. The 2nd house, the opposite, is my values. The 8th house is their values, okay? So Mercury going into that, it all of a sudden becomes a little gray, unsure, okay? Mercury slows down. There's not much clarity. There's a vagueness, a veil that happens. And this is not permanent. Okay, it's just temporary. While this is happening, Mars starts to get extreme. It goes out of bounds, and all out of bounds means is it's imbalanced. So Mars typically is already very assertive, can be kind of just has less patience. Mars just wants to act, just wants to do, doesn't think before leaping. So when it goes out of bounds, it'll be more apt to be more impulsive, to react and not respond, right? A response is when we think before we speak. That's what a response is. A reaction is no thinking before speaking. So I have a date where things get, where I wouldn't make any decisions personally. And then I have a date where I would make decisions, okay? So for me, I was looking at this and I'm like, all right, I want to try to be strategic about this, okay? And being strategic, I want to know if I have to sign something, if I have to make some big decisions, when do I not want to do that? Or if I have to do it during this time, I need to know where I need to have people, trusted individuals, not new individuals. You're not hiring somebody during this time. Not a good time. Not a good time to make decisions or start something new. Even though Mars is going to make you want to start something new, because Mars begins its out of bounds at 24 degrees Sagittarius, and it goes into Capricorn. And when Mars goes into Capricorn, it's like, okay, now I'm done thinking. I'm going to be doing, okay? And I'm telling you, you're not. Because I'm telling you, I wouldn't, all right? So let's try to give dates and degrees to add clarity. So first of all, we gave the Mercury stuff, all right? Mercury from February 17th to February 9th is when it's in its backward mode, okay? And it goes from 13 degrees Pisces back to 28 degrees Aquarius, okay? So for you, this is happening in your 8th house. The Mars situation begins on February 9th. That's when it starts to go extreme. February 9th to March 3rd. So less patient. Mars is going to be less patient. Keep that in mind. You know, if you have somebody who's kind of, you know, driven as it is, because that's a word for Mars, driven, my passion, my drive, I want to fight, all right? They're going to be more apt, more quick. The wick is smaller. The wick is a lot smaller, much more fiery. Mars is in Sag, very fiery sign. And that is from February 9th to March 3rd, okay? That's when it's more extreme. So the dates of overlapping for these two are February 17th to March 3rd. February 17th is a time where Mars is going to make you feel like, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And where Mercury is not clear, doesn't have all the details. So what that means is, even though Mars is telling you, let's do this, you know you're not in your right mind. So for myself, I'm telling myself, I'm not signing nothing during that time. I'm asking for an extension, or if I have no other alternative, like if there's no such thing, you can't have an extension, you can't have more time, then I need to make sure I have other people around me that I can consult, that I have a strong trust with, that we have a developed trusting relationship with, okay, where they can consult me and say, hey, you know, if I were you, this is what I would do. And these are trusted people, not new people, okay? The Mars, being impulsive, okay, is located in Sagittarius. This is your 5th house. This is your romance department. This is the place of children, people who want to have children, or people who want to have creative projects, people who have this drive to let's create, let's make something. Whether it's let's make a baby or let's, you know, we can go to the kitchen and make some cookies. A lot of times if Mars is in your 5th house, though, it's not about that. Mars in the 5th. The 5th house is how I can be active with my body, how I can be physically active, okay? How I can have fun with my body. Well, that's why they call the 5th house the house of dating and romance, because you have fun with the opposite sex in this 5th house, okay? It's the house of having a good time with the body, with another person, all right? You use your imagination. But that doesn't mean that it's limited to that. By no means does it mean that, okay? You are not limited to the energies that are present in your chart. Understand that every energy has like a base energy to it, it has a midline, and then it has a high expression. And then some, depending upon how much will they have, how much willfulness they express in this lifetime, they can exceed those boundaries. I know, it's hard to fathom that, but it's true. We have free will. It's a real thing. Many would argue we do not, but we do. It's there. But I'll be honest, from what I've studied, a lot of people are born with different degrees of the willpower. I have a video. I don't know if you've seen it. If you want to watch that video, it literally gives a breakdown. I give percentages on your will and a whole bunch of a few other things actually. I won't go into depth about it at all here. It gets technical, but it's done in a way where you can kind of make sense of your soul's desire, of your own personal personality's willful desireness, okay, and destiny, like what you came to do. I could attach it below, but like I said, if you're interested in that kind of a thing, let me know. I'll attach the link for you because it's right in the library, but it might not be real easy to find. But anyway, so knowing that this is your 5th house and your 8th house, right? Your 5th house is romance, it's children, it's fun, it's creativity, okay? 5th house is also the house of where we take a risk in our life, the things that we're willing to take a gamble on. Okay, so it can be our investments, it can be the stock market, okay? The 8th house is other people's resources. Remember, the 8th house? And that's where that Mercury gets muddy up there in Neptune. So for Leo Ascendant, Leo Risings, that means it's not a good time to make investment decisions with your money, bottom line, right? It's not a good time for that. That's what that means. It also means you want to be careful during Valentine's Day. Mars is going to be very impulsive. There's really an alert out for everybody. There's another video I did, I think it was over a month ago by now, where it talked about Valentine's Day and how, because around the days before Valentine's Day, Venus literally is already in the Aries energy. Venus becomes very impulsive. Venus becomes very about, I want to self-gratify. It's all about me, 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 me. And, Venus is a young person, a young female. But in Aries, well, it's like two youngsters together, right? There's no adult around. And so what do? They have a tendency to get into trouble. And Mars is in this fiery, out of bounds Sag. So they're literally trining each other. Well, they're not exactly trining, but they're both in fiery energy. So what you want to do is make sure at this time, if you're doing something, recognize that once this energy is passed, like after the Valentine's Day stuff, once we get to the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, things are going to change. Mars is going to go from being in fiery Sag to being in logical, structured, non-risk taking Capricorn, trying to do things that, it's kind of almost like a solo energy, okay? Could be. It could be. That would be a low expression of it. Mars then turns into, but I want to do what I want to do, damn it. So we kind of gave out a heads up for that video of, you just want to be certain of this individual that you're dealing with, especially if it's someone new, because there's an aspect happening where Mars trines Uranus, and Uranus is all about exciting new things. So keep yourselves, aware of the choices that you're making, and just be aware. If you're taking chances, then realize that after you take a chance, after you take that risk, there's consequences. And you just want to be aware of what the consequences would be or could be, and say to yourself, is it worth it? Okay, you're an adult, and if you're not over 18, please be very careful. That's my recommendation. And if you're not in the situation where you will be able to take care of the choices that you've made, the consequences, and it would be affecting others' lives, I would suggest please be very cautious. Okay, so now let me give you some dates for clarity. Dates where I would recommend for myself, where if I had to put my signature on the line, right? If I had to make a decision, these are the dates that I would do this. I would wait until March 10th. Mercury actually starts going direct on March 9th. But on March 10th, Mercury starts to pick up speed. Remember, Mercury moves fast, and Mercury's in Aquarius at this point at 28 degrees, which is great. Really good energy. But this is where Mercury picks up that information and now has to go back into the murky Piscean water. So when Mercury gets back into those waters, it slows down again. So you have a very small window of clarity, a very small window. Now, this is not saying that it's doomsday. It's just saying it requires a lot of extra effort in terms of making sure that what you're signing is what is, and making sure that you've gone over it multiple times. So between the 10th and the 13th of March, I know it's a small window, but between those days is where I feel really confident I would have my greatest clarity and not being so 100% dependent on somebody else's ability to think for me. I don't like that. Personally, for me, I like the idea of thinking, okay, I will take in information that others gave me, but I also want to feel good about it, knowing that if I make a decision, it was because I chose it, not because it was based upon what somebody else thought. I'm a big believer in critical independent thinking, and I recommend that for everybody. So I hope that this has somehow given clarity for you and that it has helped to shed light upon your way. Thank you.